Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you.
Entrepreneurs in search of capital will travel to the ends of the earth and sometimes right into the Shark Tank. The swim turned out to be a successful one for one local startup, a company called PittMoss. 3 investors on the TV show put in $600,000 for a 35% stake in the Ambridge-based company, which has also been generating support here in our region. Mont Handley is the CEO of PittMoss. And welcome, good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Bill.
And congratulations on the star turn on Shark Tank. That had to have been a pretty amazing experience.
It was wildly amazing, thank you.
Yeah, how did that even come about? How does a guy with a great idea in a new company find himself there?
Well, I think a local association here in Pittsburgh, NAVOBA, National Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, they have a national magazine and did an article about me. A couple days later, the Small Business Administration here in Pittsburgh with a veterans liaison called and said, hey, we just got a message from Shark Tank. They're looking for veteran-owned businesses. Can we promote you? Sure.
Well, so you went into it. You obviously weren't thinking, that was not part of your fundraising strategy initially, so you went in with a grain of salt, I would assume.
No, absolutely. We thought, hey, 1 in a million shot, for sure. And so when we got the call, it was just totally out of the blue, and I thought someone was pulling my leg.
Is that crazy? And then it turned out to be so successful. One of the very few, I guess, of all the businesses they consider who actually gets funding out of that show.
We have been very, very successful in raising some money, not just with the Shark Tank, but here locally as well. We've raised money with Blue Tree Allied Angels here, Angels with Attitudes, Innovation Works, Idea Foundry. So we've been very successful.
That is so great. You're up, what, over $1.5 million at this point?
$1.5 million, and there's a little opportunity with a grant with the Commonwealth as well through a D2PA grant from the Department of Community Economic Development.
Well, good for you, and all of this for an alternative to peat moss.
Sure.
Know, talk about a commodity. One wouldn't think there's much of a business opportunity there. What made you think there was a business opportunity?
Sure. Well, my
there?
first job out of college was managing a retail nursery in the Chicago area. And I would see truckloads of peat moss coming in and being sold to home gardeners, and I thought, where does that come from? Where does that product come from? And that just interest stimulated research, and I just discovered that the harvesting of the product is actually very detrimental to the environment.
Golly, I never even think about that when you pick up the giant sacks at the big box store, but they're harvesting them from natural environments somewhere.
Sure. These wetlands are actually only about 3% of the Earth's total land surface. They're called peat bogs, and they actually sequester more carbon out of the atmosphere than any other habitat, twice as much as actually all the forests on the planet. So they're actually helping to moderate our climate. And I just thought it was insane that we were destroying them to fill flower pots.
So that was almost 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago. So what alternative did you finally come up with?
Well, I worked on the product for about 3 years in my kitchen with a hand-me-down Cuisinart that my mother gave me when I moved into my first apartment. And we finally came up with a stable formula that would hold up over time and was a very, very good medium to grow plants in.
So what's in it? I mean, where do you get the material?
Sure. It's actually the pile that you're seeing in front of you is a ground up Post-Gazette.
Sure, a ground up newspaper.
Absolutely.
For the most part. Now this pile right here, it's kind of mixed, right, with other stuff to make this actually
This would be a finished soil for a potting mix in like a greenhouse or nursery.
Okay, so ground up Post-Gazette, but that means it's got inks and all kinds of other stuff in the paper. Does that make a difference, or how does that play in this?
We have always been very conscientious about testing all of our paper sources. There are inks on the paper, but they're usually soy-based inks at this point.
Really?
Right, and we test it with an elemental composition test that's widely available through horticultural labs, and we're always within a safe range of absolutely normal soil.
So you can use the soil to grow not just flowers, but vegetables and fruits and whatever else?
And we took the next step to test the elemental composition of the plants grown in the material as well, so we know there is no uptake of anything that would be unhealthy to consume.
So you can take all this waste paper, which is being made more environmentally friendly anyway because of soy-based inks and all the revolution there. Now you've got an alternative to peat moss that hopefully saves the bogs all around the world. So where are you in bringing this to market?
Sure. Well, we closed our deals with the Sharks and with the local investors in February of this year. We tore down our little proof of concept plant that was in North Huntington on the property of Johnson the florist, and we signed a lease with a landlord in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, great building. So we're about 3 weeks away from turning on the switches again and actually producing PittMoss, or PittMoss. Wow.
PittMoss, oh yeah. You got to be careful. Work on that branding, right? Yeah. So just a few weeks away. But initially, is this something we're going to see in the big box store, the local hardware store? Or how are you going to roll it out?
We're rolling out to commercial greenhouses and nurseries right now here in the Northeast. We already have several commitments. Actually, our first 4 months of production are already spoken for. Absolutely. And just the other day, after the Shark Tank appearance, I took a call from a big box buyer. Don't really want to mention it yet,
sure,
but
it's okay. But at least you're
exciting.
On the map. You're now a consumer brand because you've been on national TV.
And after 20 years, it's about time.
Good for you, Mont Handley. The company's called PittMoss. Look for it someday at a store near you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Bill.
And we'll be back in a minute with a little dollars and cents. Stay with us.